Absolutely. Here's a fully expanded and richly detailed version of the Serenity 2019 video introduction, keeping it fun, conversational, and informative without using emojis or links. Introduction. Friends, get ready, because in today's video, we are diving into one of the most intriguing, mysterious, and unexpected films you've probably ever seen. That's right, we're talking about Serenity, released in 2019. This isn't your typical thriller. It's a movie that starts like a slow-burning mystery and then completely flips the script with a twist so wild, it will leave you questioning everything you just watched. If you're someone who enjoys films that make you think, keep you guessing, and even mess with your mind a little, then you'll definitely want to stick around for this one. But before we jump into the deep end of this mind-bending film, do me a quick favor. If you're watching our channel for the very first time, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on any of our movie-related content. And if you enjoy thought-provoking cinema and fun movie discussions, a like on this video would mean a lot. It helps us grow and bring you even more content like this. Now, back to Serenity, 2019. In this video, I'll be telling you everything you need to know about this mysterious film. From the plot and setting to the characters, performances, production, and more. We'll talk about what makes this movie so unique, where and how you can watch it, and whether it's worth your time. Whether you've seen it before and want a deeper look or you're just curious if this film is worth adding to your watch list, I've got you covered. First things first. We'll explore where you can actually watch Serenity. Is it available on any major OTT platforms? Can you find it on satellite channels? I'll walk you through all the options so you can easily sit back and experience this cinematic roller coaster from the comfort of your own home. Then we'll move into the behind-the-scenes action. What went into making Serenity? How was it developed, and who were the people responsible for bringing it to life? We'll talk about the film's pre-production process, including the early ideas and planning stages, then dive into the filming locations, cinematography style, editing choices, and the haunting musical score that adds so much atmosphere to the story. I'll also tell you about the production budget. Yes, we'll get into the numbers, and how the movie performed at the box office, which may actually surprise you. And of course, we can't talk about Serenity without mentioning its incredibly talented cast. Matthew McConaughey plays the lead role of Baker Dill, a mysterious fishing boat captain with a complicated past. And Hathaway joins him as Karen, a woman who re-enters his life with a dark request that sets the story in motion. We'll break down each actor's performance, explore their character arcs, and look at how their chemistry and acting brought depth and intensity to the film. We'll also spend some time analyzing the story. But don't worry, I'll keep it spoiler-free at first so you can enjoy the movie for yourself if you haven't seen it yet. I'll give you a short review of the plot, the pace, the atmosphere, and what you can expect in terms of themes and tone. Then, a little later in the video, we'll get into some spoiler territory where I explain that insane plot twist, the moment that completely redefines the entire movie. If you've seen the film before and were confused by what actually happened, don't worry. I'll break it all down for you in a clear and simple way. On top of that, we'll go over some really interesting facts about the movie's production, direction, and reception. What did critics think of it? Why did it get such a mixed response? And why has it become somewhat of a cult favorite for people who enjoy mind-bending stories? We'll look at audience reactions, theories, and even some of the hidden symbolism and meaning behind the film's most mysterious scenes. So friends, buckle up, because this isn't your everyday movie discussion. This is a deep dive into one of the most unique films to come out in recent years. Whether you're here for the story, the cast, the twist, or just to discover something new, I promise you'll find something interesting in today's video. So grab your snacks, sit back, and stay with me till the end. You won't want to miss a single detail. Alright, without further delay, let's get into it and talk all about Serenity, 2019. Let's start the video. Okay, let's set the scene. You're watching this movie called Serenity, and everything seems straightforward at first. We're on a remote, almost dreamlike tropical island called Plymouth. The sun is always shining, the ocean is a shimmering blue, and our main character Baker Dill looks like he walked straight out of a Hemingway novel. He's got that salty, rugged fisherman vibe. Quiet, brooding, haunted. He's played by none other than Matthew McConaughey, who spends the first 20 minutes of the movie shirtless, sweaty, and borderline obsessed with catching one particular fish. No joke. This guy is fixated on a giant tuna named Justice. He talks to it. He screams at it. He risks his life to catch it. You think, Alright, maybe this is going to be a movie about man versus nature or obsession, or something poetic like that. Right. Wrong. Very wrong. Enter Karen, played by Anne Hathaway, who walks into the movie like a femme fatale from a 1940s noir film. She's glamorous, mysterious, and instantly makes the story take a sharp turn. She's Baker's ex-wife, and she's not just dropping by for a friendly reunion. No, she has a proposal. A deadly one. She wants Baker to take her violent, alcoholic, controlling husband out on his boat and feed him to the sharks. Literally. Push him overboard. Let nature do the dirty work. Why? Because her husband abuses her and is now threatening their teenage son. And just like that, our moody fisherman is thrust into a classic moral thriller. Will he do it? Should he do it? Can he live with himself if he does? This is where you settle in, expecting a tense, dramatic story of moral struggle. You brace for scenes of inner conflict, heavy decisions, maybe even some courtroom drama or tragic consequences. But Serenity says nope. It takes that plotline, and just when you're comfortable, bam, it pulls the rug out from under you. Things start to get weird. People around the island act strangely. Conversations don't make sense. A mysterious man in a suit is chasing Baker around trying to sell him something, but the dialogue is robotic and stilted. The rules of this world feel off. Baker's behavior becomes erratic, like he's caught in some kind of loop. And then, about halfway through the movie, comes the big reveal. And it is wild. The island? Fake. The people? Not real. Baker Dill himself? A fictional character. It turns out, are you ready? That this entire story is happening inside a video game. That's right. This brooding fisherman world? It's a digital creation. A simulation. And the person playing, or more accurately, designing, this game is Baker's real-life son, a lonely, traumatized teenager living in the real world. His name is Patrick. And he created this game to escape the horror of his real life, where his mother, the real Karen, is trapped in a toxic, abusive relationship with his monstrous stepfather. So what does Patrick do? He doesn't fight him in real life. He fights him in code. He rewrites his father, a man who died in Iraq, as a heroic sea captain in this game. He creates a world where he has control, where justice can actually happen. The obsession with the fish named Justice? Not a metaphor anymore. It's literal code. Justice is just a line of programming, but also a symbol for what Patrick craves most in the real world. What started out looking like a traditional thriller is suddenly a psychological sci-fi drama about trauma, memory, and wish fulfillment. Now this is where things get even crazier. As Baker, who, again, is just a video game character, starts becoming self-aware, he begins to realize that he's not real. That his world isn't real. That he's being controlled by someone else. That his actions aren't his own. Imagine that existential crisis. You think you're a man chasing a fish in the ocean, and suddenly you realize you're just a string of code being manipulated by a teenager in a hoodie. So what does Baker do? He decides to fight back. He decides to go off script. He wants to help his son, not just play his role. So this movie turns into a meta-story, where a digital man rebels against his programming to do what he believes is right. He starts making choices the game never intended. He doesn't care about the rules anymore. He wants to be more than a tool for someone else's fantasy. And here's the emotional punch. It's not just about the game. It's about a kid trying to cope with grief and trauma, using this virtual world as his way of screaming for help. Baker's rebellion becomes symbolic of Patrick's emotional strength. His desire to take control of his own life, to stop being a victim, and to finally do something. Suddenly, all the weirdness from earlier, the stiff dialogue, the repetitive behavior, the glitchy logic, it all makes sense. These aren't plot holes. They're signs. Hints that this world is fake. That it's being rendered by a computer. It's kind of like The Truman Show meets Inception meets a fishing trip gone wrong. And just like that, everything about the first half of the movie gets redefined. There's no neat three-act structure here. This film plays fast and loose with narrative rules. It starts as a noir thriller, mutates into a moral fable, then slams into philosophical sci-fi territory. It experiments with time. Game time isn't real time. It toys with perspective. Who is the real protagonist here? The digital father? Or the grieving son? It even blurs the line between the real and the imagined. And the emotional impact? It's surprisingly powerful. Because beneath all the strangeness, Serenity is a story about a boy who lost his father and wants to bring him back in the only way he knows how. By writing him into a world where he can still be a hero. So yeah, Serenity is a total narrative roller coaster. It keeps you guessing, messes with your head, and refuses to play by the rules. But whether you find it ridiculous, brilliant, or both, one thing's for sure. You've never seen anything quite like it. Let's dive deeper, shall we? Because the characters in Serenity 2019 are like those Russian nesting dolls. On the surface they look like clichés, familiar and easy to predict, but once the big twist kicks in, you realize they're stuffed full of layers, emotions, symbolism, and unexpected complexity. The moment you accept that this story is happening inside a boy's video game creation, inside his grieving, brilliant, and emotionally overwhelmed mind, every action, every personality trait, every line of dialogue suddenly becomes a loaded psychological message. So let's really stretch out and unpack what's going on beneath the surface of these digital souls. Baker Dill. Where do we even begin? Before you know the truth about the video game world, Baker just seems like your average tortured Hemingway knockoff. He's the kind of man who's always glistening with sea spray, brooding on a dock, muttering lines that sound deep even when they're not. He drinks like he's punishing himself for a past he doesn't fully remember, and his entire life revolves around catching one monstrous tuna. Yes, a fish, but it's also named Justice, which should have been the first red flag. At first, Baker seems frozen in place, caught in a loop of failed fishing trips, pointless brawls, and nightly visits to a local woman for, let's say, emotional comfort. But here's where it gets fascinating. Once we find out that Baker is a digital reimagining of Patrick's real-life father, who died in combat, it's like a crack of lightning. Every obsessive behavior, every emotionally charged decision, every scream into the ocean suddenly becomes the cry of a son trying to resurrect the man he lost. Baker isn't just trying to catch a fish. He's trying to live up to the idea of justice that his creator, Patrick, believes his father represented. And when Baker starts realizing that his world isn't real, that he's a construct, a tool in someone else's story, his entire arc pivots. He evolves from a passive fisherman stuck in a moral rut to a kind of digital messiah, choosing to break the code and fight for something real. It's an existential journey dressed in fishing boots. And then there's Karen, played with this dazzling exaggerated noir flair by Anne Hathaway. Karen is, on the surface, a woman in distress, a classic damsel with a dangerous request: murder her abusive husband. She's part seductress, part victim, part manipulator. But remember, this isn't the real Karen. This is a version of Patrick's mother, seen through the foggy lens of a boy's imagination. In Patrick's eyes, she's glamorous and broken, desperate but brave. That's why her emotions are so big, so dramatic. They aren't filtered through realism, they're painted in bold, theatrical brushstrokes, like how a child might see someone they love in pain. Karen doesn't really change much during the film, but she doesn't need to, because her purpose in the story is to ignite Baker's transformation. She's the spark that sets off the moral dilemma, the one who gives Baker a mission that forces him to question the reality of his world. Karen is less about her own growth and more about symbolizing Patrick's cry for help. She's the embodiment of helplessness, but also of courage, the kind that takes shape when someone feels they have no other option. Let's turn to Frank, Karen's husband and the film's primary antagonist. Frank is evil with a capital E. He's crude, violent, arrogant, and cartoonishly repugnant. He doesn't just push boundaries. He kicks them down, drinks all the booze, and insults everyone in sight while doing it. But here's the kicker. Frank's one-dimensionality is intentional. He's the result of a young boy creating the worst version possible of the man terrorizing his mother. Frank's every action is a reflection of Patrick's fear, his hatred, and his wish to see justice served. He doesn't evolve, he doesn't learn, he doesn't have redeeming traits, and that's the point. Frank is evil distilled into a human form. He's a walking, snarling symbol of why this whole simulated world exists in the first place. Patrick can't stop Frank in real life. He's too small, too powerless, too scared. But inside the game, Frank can be punished. Frank can die. Frank can finally be held accountable. And that makes him less of a character and more of an emotional target. He's the monster under Patrick's bed, dragged out into digital daylight. Now, you might have blinked and missed him at first, but Reed Miller, the nervous, rule-obsessed man in glasses, is maybe the weirdest character in the whole film. And in Serenity, that's saying a lot. Reed shows up dressed like he belongs in an accounting firm, mumbling about algorithms and sales pitches, trying to get Baker to accept the new update or follow the intended programming. But once the twist drops, you realize he's not a man at all. He's the personification of the game's internal logic, the glitchy AI trying to keep things on track. He exists to make sure the story stays within the code. No improvising, no free will. So when Baker starts breaking away, Reed goes from comic relief to tragic glitch. You start to feel bad for him in a weird way. He's just doing his job, after all. He didn't sign up for existential rebellion. He's like the customer service rep who realizes he's stuck in a Kafka novel. And finally, the one character who ties it all together. Patrick ***, the unseen but ever-present architect of this world. We don't spend much time with him on screen, but his fingerprints are on everything. His grief built this island. His longing resurrected his father. His pain turned ordinary characters into moral warriors and monsters. Through Patrick, we understand why none of these people are normal. They weren't meant to be. They were written with purpose, to fix what's broken in his real world. What makes Patrick's arc so subtle and so powerful is that we're watching his transformation through the choices of his video game characters. He starts out passive, hiding from his problems by escaping into fantasy. But as the simulation spins out of control and Baker begins to act on his own, we realize Patrick's gaining the strength he needs in real life. When Baker defies the game and kills Frank anyway, despite the rules, that act becomes a kind of signal. Patrick is ready. He can face what he has to face in the real world. It's less about growing up and more about finding the courage to act. So when you zoom out and really look at the full tapestry of Serenity, it's not just a movie about a fisherman, a femme fatale, and a villain. It's a story about how characters, crafted by grief, shaped by trauma, and infused with longing, can take on lives of their own. Every single one of them is a reflection of Patrick's inner world, and as they evolve, so does he. These aren't just characters. They're emotional code. And in watching them glitch, grow, and rebel, we witness the surreal beauty of a broken boy trying to piece himself back together. One line of programming at a time. Let's go all in, because Serenity, 2019, is not just a film, it's a performance puzzle box. Every actor in this bizarre genre-blurring odyssey gives a performance that feels like it's been dipped in honey, shaken in sand, and handed back to you with a deadpan stare. You might not know what's happening plot-wise, but the performances? They're like hypnotic fever dreams you can't look away from. Some actors go big, some go weird, and some go heartbreakingly subtle. And somehow, in this jigsaw of digital dreams and emotional trauma, it all fits together. Let's take a magnifying glass to Matthew McConaughey, who plays Baker Dill as if he's channeling every noir anti-hero, every storm-tossed philosopher, and every fisherman with a tragic past, then dials it up to existential meltdown levels. McConaughey doesn't just act in this film. He haunts it. He stalks the island with a beer in one hand, a cigarette in the other, and that signature McConaughey drawl curling around every line like a fog. He brings a kind of wild-eyed poetry to the role. He mutters about fate and justice like a man on the brink of some grand revelation. And the moment he starts to question the fabric of his reality, when he begins to feel the code unraveling, you watch him slide from rugged Hemingway archetype into a kind of glitching digital prophet. His performance becomes a tug-of-war between man and machine, instinct and programming, grief and resistance. There are moments when he's yelling at the sky, or obsessively chasing the fish named Justice, and it should be ridiculous. But McConaughey makes it feel like a man trying to claw his way out of a dream he didn't ask for. He's sweaty, erratic, intense, and absolutely compelling. It's like watching a Shakespearean monologue performed in a fish shack, and somehow, it works. Then there's Anne Hathaway, who doesn't just act, she descends. From the moment she appears on screen, gliding out of a shiny car like a noir siren dipped in moonlight, she's playing Karen like she stepped straight out of an old detective novel. Her voice is butter-smooth, her body language is all calculated allure, and she speaks in riddles and declarations, like someone trying to be overheard by fate. But what's genius about Hathaway's performance is that she knows she's playing a character inside a character. This isn't just a femme fatale, this is a boy's version of his mother, filtered through trauma and longing. Hathaway's exaggerated delivery, her dramatic pauses, her teary-eyed pleadings, they all make sense once you realize she's a projection of grief. And when she drops the seductress act and just talks to Baker like a desperate woman begging for help, Hathaway lets the cracks show. Her performance softens, deepens, and suddenly, she's no longer an archetype. She's a mother crying out from the recesses of her child's memory. It's a performance of layers, delivered with a kind of theatrical confidence that could feel campy in another movie. But here, becomes strangely tragic and mesmerizing. Now hold on, because Jason Clarke enters the scene like a bull in a nightmare. As Frank, Karen's abusive husband, Clarke doesn't chew the scenery. He sets it on fire and smashes the remains with a bottle. He is grotesque. He's loud, erratic, mean-spirited, and absolutely unapologetic about it. But, and here's the important part, it's intentional. Clarke plays Frank as the living embodiment of evil through a child's eyes. His every gesture, every vulgar comment, every sudden explosion of violence feels like it's been filtered through trauma and magnified to monstrous proportions. He doesn't act like a real person, because he isn't a real person. He's Patrick's memory of a terrible man, cranked up to 11. Clarke commits so hard to this repulsiveness that it becomes impossible to ignore him. You want him gone. And when Baker finally decides to kill him, it's not just a plot point. It's a cathartic release, because Clarke has done such a masterful job making Frank unbearable. He's not just playing a villain, he's weaponizing the idea of cruelty, and delivering it with chilling, sweaty precision. Let's not forget the unsung MVP of the surreal. Jeremy Strong as Reed Miller. You might know Strong from intense, deeply human roles in other dramas. But here? He's a malfunctioning algorithm in a suit. And he's phenomenal. He plays Reed like a tech support agent who took a wrong turn into a noir mystery. Everything about him is off. His timing, his body language, his strangely formal tone. He delivers lines about programming and updates with the kind of urgency you'd expect from a man warning you about an impending nuclear meltdown, but he's talking about fishing strategy. It's hilarious, unsettling, and somehow deeply sad. Strong gives Reed this twitchy nervousness, like a man who's trying really hard to keep the illusion going, even though he knows the code is falling apart. And as the story spirals into chaos, he becomes this oddly sympathetic figure, trapped between duty and inevitability. Strong plays him as both comic relief and digital Cassandra, doomed to be ignored even as he tries to explain the truth. Diane Lane, though given less to do, deserves applause for how she brings something hauntingly routine to her role as Constance. She's the island's comfort on autopilot, a character clearly designed to keep Baker calm, fulfilled, distracted. Lane infuses her scenes with subtle melancholy. She flirts and teases, but there's an emptiness in her eyes, like she knows she's stuck in a loop. It's that quiet, robotic resignation that makes her performance stand out. She plays it like someone who's forgotten she was programmed, and that hint of tragic weariness makes her scenes oddly moving. And then we have Raphael Sayegh as Patrick, the boy whose grief powers the entire digital dreamscape. His performance is quiet, reserved, almost ghost-like. He barely speaks, but his eyes do all the work. There's a weight to his silences, a heaviness to his presence, that makes you feel everything he's feeling. He doesn't need big emotional breakdowns or speeches. He's the still center of the storm. Every performance in the film, in some way, echoes Patrick's unspoken trauma, and that's what makes his quiet intensity so powerful. He's not trying to perform. He is the performance. He's the code, the pain, the memory, the creator. Put all of this together, and what you get is a cast that doesn't just act. They perform like they're inside a dream being rewritten in real time. Their choices are bold, their styles are clashing, and the emotional tones shift from one minute to the next. But instead of chaos, what you get is a bizarre, compelling dance of characters trying to find meaning in a world that isn't quite real. And that's what makes Serenity such a trip. The performances aren't just entertaining. They're the glitching heartbeats of a simulation built on grief. You don't just watch them. You feel them pinging off the edge of reality, like echoes in a digital bottle lost at sea. Alright, buckle up, because Stephen Knight's direction in Serenity, 2019, is a wild ride that doesn't just steer the film. It throws it into cinematic hyperdrive and leaves you clutching the edges. From the very first moment, Knight's vision hits you with a heady mix of moods and styles that keeps you guessing and frankly, a bit unsteady, like you're walking a tightrope over an ocean of mystery and glitchy reality. This isn't your typical thriller or mystery. Knight isn't interested in spoon-feeding you a neat, tidy story. Instead, he invites you to get lost in a layered, often surreal atmosphere that's more about feeling than explaining. One of the standout moves Knight pulls off is how he uses the setting almost like another character. The island of Plymouth isn't just a backdrop. It's a cage, a looping trap, a dream space that visually echoes the main character Baker Dill's internal confusion and despair. The way the camera lingers on the endless ocean, the sun-bleached docks, The sleepy town streets creates this hypnotic rhythm. It's beautiful, but also oppressive in its sameness. Night masterfully plays with light and shadow, using the golden hour glow to paint scenes that feel both idyllic and eerie. You get this sense that beneath the sunny skies, something is deeply off, and Night's direction makes sure you feel that tension creeping in through the visuals alone. When it comes to pacing, Night is like a mischievous puppeteer. The first part of the film is slow, almost lethargic. Characters move deliberately, dialogue circles back on itself, and time seems to stretch and fold. It's almost like the film is daring you to stay patient, to look for cracks in the routine. This deliberate pacing isn't accidental. It's a direct reflection of the story's underlying premise that Baker is stuck in a digital loop, a simulation program to replay the same moments. Night's choice to slow things down makes you feel trapped, and that sensation builds tension without loud explosions or frantic cuts. Then when the big twist lands, the pace picks up sharply, and Night shifts gears expertly, matching the urgency of the story's unraveling. This contrast makes the narrative jolts hit harder because you've been simmering in a stew of quiet dread. Visually, Night and his cinematographer make clever use of composition and framing to reinforce the film's themes. Shots often place Baker at the center of the frame, isolated from others or dwarfed by the environment, emphasizing his loneliness and detachment. There's a clinical symmetry to some scenes that suggests artificiality, as if the world around Baker is too neat, too rehearsed. Night doesn't shy away from long, almost meditative takes, sometimes letting the camera linger on empty streets, a lone figure walking, or a glass of liquor trembling in a hand. These moments give the film an almost hypnotic quality, inviting viewers to sink into the mood rather than chase a plot. The choice to embrace these slow, contemplative shots rather than jump-cutting action sequences speaks to Night's confidence in building suspense through atmosphere. Tone is where Night's directorial skill truly shines in Serenity. The film oscillates between genres with reckless abandon. One moment a moody, whiskey-soaked noir, the next a psychological thriller, and then a sci-fi mindbender. Rather than muddling the film, this tonal flux creates a unique emotional roller coaster. Night blends these styles with such confidence that the shifts feel like deliberate jolts designed to keep the audience off balance, mirroring Baker's own fractured sense of reality. There's a lingering sadness underneath all the genre tropes. Night isn't just telling a mystery. He's exploring grief, loss, and the desperate desire for control in the face of chaos. The tonal shifts amplify this emotional core, turning what could be a straightforward thriller into an emotional labyrinth. Night's direction also embraces the strange rhythm of the film's dialogue and character behavior. Many characters speak with a certain stiffness or repetition, which at first can seem like awkward writing or acting choices. But no, this is Night's way of making the artificiality of the simulation palpable. It's like the people in this world are stuck on a loop, repeating the same lines and actions like malfunctioning androids. The effect is unnerving and fascinating. When the supporting characters like Reed Miller with his robotic jargon or Constance with her routine flirtations deliver their lines, Night directs them to hit this uncanny valley where the familiar becomes eerie. This enhances the sense that Baker's world isn't quite real, giving the story an almost dreamlike texture where nothing is quite what it seems. Silence, often an underrated tool, is wielded expertly by Night. He knows when to pull back and let quiet dominate a scene, whether it's Baker staring out over the endless ocean, the gentle hum of the island's atmosphere, or the lingering looks between characters. These silent beats aren't pauses. They're loaded with meaning, a language of absence that speaks louder than words. Night uses these moments to build tension, to reflect Baker's isolation, and to give viewers space to feel the emotional weight of what's happening beneath the surface. It's a bold move, especially in a film that already plays with unconventional storytelling, and it pays off by adding depth and texture to the narrative. And then there's the way Night directs the film's big reveals and shifts in reality. Rather than resorting to flashy effects or melodramatic scenes, he keeps these moments intimate and grounded. The film's climax and the unraveling of the truth come not with fanfare but with quiet intensity. Night focuses on close-ups, on actors' expressions, on subtle changes in tone and body language. This approach makes the emotional stakes feel personal and relatable, even as the story itself dives deep into sci-fi territory. It's like Night is saying, no matter how strange the world gets, at its heart are real people grappling with real feelings. In sum, Stephen Knight's direction in Serenity is a masterclass in mood and atmosphere, a deliberate exercise in storytelling that challenges the viewer to think and feel simultaneously. He doesn't just tell a story. He builds a living, breathing world that feels at once familiar and profoundly alien. His choices in pacing, composition, tone, and character behavior all serve to immerse you in Baker Dill's fractured reality, making you question what's real and what's programmed. Watching Serenity is like being caught in a slow-motion storm, where every detail counts and every silence screams. Night's direction is the beating heart of that experience, the invisible hand guiding you through the maze of mystery, grief, and digital dreams. The cinematography in Serenity, 2019, is like a painter's brush dipped in mystery and melancholy, carefully crafting a visual world that draws you in with its beauty but never lets you forget the unsettling undercurrents lurking beneath. From the very first frame, the camera work sets the tone, inviting you to enter a place that feels both achingly familiar and eerily off-kilter, like a dream you can't quite wake up from. It's a masterclass in how angles, lighting, and framing don't just show a story but become the story itself, layering meaning and emotion into every shot. One of the most fascinating aspects is the way repetition is built into the very fabric of the visuals. You'll see certain shots, like the calm ocean, the sun-bleached docks, or Baker's fishing boat, appear multiple times, but each time they subtly shift. Maybe the sunlight is a bit harsher, or the angle catches a different detail, or the shadows stretch a little longer. This visual echoing mirrors the film's narrative theme of loops and cycles, reinforcing the idea that Baker's life is caught in a never-ending replay. It's almost like the cinematography itself is a kind of glitch, repeating the same code with slight errors that start to feel uncanny. These subtle differences make you pay attention, inviting you to spot the cracks in the world's facade. Angles in the film are cleverly employed to communicate the emotional state of the characters and the story's shifting dynamics. Wide shots of the ocean and surrounding landscapes give a sense of open space and freedom on the surface, but this openness quickly reveals itself as a paradoxical cage. The vastness isolates Baker rather than liberates him, visually expressing his loneliness and the sense that he's adrift in more ways than one. In contrast, tighter shots within the town use framing that corners characters, traps them in doorways, or places them behind bars of light and shadow. This claustrophobic framing subtly tells you that beneath the wide horizons, there are invisible walls closing in. Baker's placement often in the dead center of the frame reinforces his role as the axis of this looping world, highlighting his isolation and the burden he carries. Lighting plays a crucial role, and it's used with such finesse that it almost feels like another character whispering secrets. The film is drenched in golden warm sunlight that paints every scene with a postcard-perfect glow, bathing the town and ocean in a seductive nostalgic light. But this beauty is a double-edged sword. The cinematography leverages this warm light to create an almost dreamlike atmosphere that lulls you into a sense of calm, only to slowly reveal the coldness and eeriness lurking in the shadows. Night scenes are colder, harsher, and more clinical, flipping the tone completely. The contrast between the sunlit days and the muted nights visually echoes Baker's journey from surface calm to deeper, more painful revelations. The interplay of light and shadow accentuates the tension between what's seen and unseen, what's real and what's fabricated. One of the film's most memorable visual sequences features Baker alone on his fishing boat, surrounded by shimmering water under a blazing sun. The camera lingers on this scene with painterly attention, capturing the glint of light on the waves, the gentle sway of the boat, and the isolation of the solitary figure against the vast seascape. This shot is deceptively simple but packed with emotional weight. The beauty of the ocean contrasts with the heaviness in Baker's expression, creating a poignant visual metaphor for the story itself. It's a moment that looks peaceful but feels loaded with unease, setting the tone for the film's exploration of surface appearances versus hidden truths. Close-up shots are used sparingly but with tremendous impact. When the camera zooms in on Baker's face, every line, every flicker in his eyes, every shadow on his skin tells a story of regret, weariness, and fading hope. These intimate moments are crucial because they bring the audience face-to-face with the humanity at the heart of this complex narrative. The cinematography uses light in these close-ups to emphasize emotions. Soft natural light to reveal vulnerability, harsher shadows to hint at inner conflict. It's a subtle but powerful way to connect viewers emotionally, making Baker's struggles feel immediate and personal amid the film's broader sci-fi themes. Movement within the cinematography is another standout feature. Instead of the shaky, frenetic handheld camera style common in many thrillers, Serenity opts for smooth, measured tracking shots and slow pans that match the story's deliberate pacing. The camera glides with Baker as he walks through the quiet town or moves about his boat, creating a hypnotic rhythm that immerses you in the repetitive cycle of his life. This steady camera work is almost meditative, encouraging you to soak in the environment and the mood, and it reinforces the feeling of being trapped in a loop. When the narrative shifts gears after the big twist, the camera movement subtly tightens and quickens, mirroring the sudden burst of urgency and change in Baker's world. Tension in the film is built as much through visual cues as through dialogue or plot. Shadows stretch long and threatening, sometimes obscuring characters or creating haunting silhouettes that hint at hidden dangers. Reflections in water, windows, and glass surfaces play tricks on the eye, distorting and multiplying images to visually suggest fractured identities and blurred realities. The cinematographer's use of mirrors and reflective surfaces is particularly effective, creating layers of meaning and making the audience question what's authentic and what's a constructed illusion. These reflections often appear at key moments, reinforcing the film's central theme of questioning reality and identity. The way the cinematography interacts with the film's narrative is nothing short of poetic. It doesn't just show you what's happening. It shapes your emotional response, deepening your engagement with the story and characters. Every lighting choice, every camera angle, every lingering shot is a deliberate brushstroke that paints Baker's world as simultaneously beautiful and disturbing, serene and haunted. The cinematography in Serenity turns the setting into an immersive experience, a visual puzzle box where every detail counts and every shadow tells a story. In the end, watching Serenity is like stepping into a world that looks perfect on the surface but feels strangely artificial when you look closer, and the cinematography is the key that unlocks this experience. It creates a rich tapestry of light, color, and composition that constantly reminds you there's more beneath the surface, inviting you to dive deeper into the film's mysteries. It's not just about seeing the story unfold, it's about feeling it through your eyes, being drawn into the repetition, the tension, and the haunting beauty of a world caught between reality and simulation. The editing in Serenity, 2019, is a carefully crafted rhythm machine, setting the film's heartbeat in sync with its narrative themes of repetition, mystery, and gradual revelation. Right from the opening scenes, the editing embraces a slow, deliberate pace that invites the audience into Baker Dill's world, a coastal town wrapped in golden light, yet underscored by a feeling of eerie stasis. This pacing is no accident. The editor consciously slows down the flow to mimic Baker's repetitive, almost monotonous daily routine. Scenes unfold with a quiet patience that allows you to absorb the environment, the characters, and the subtle visual cues that hint at something lurking beneath the surface. It's a cinematic invitation to lean in, to watch closely, and to feel the weight of time stretching, as if the story itself is caught in a loop. Transitions between scenes are executed with a smoothness that feels almost seamless, but they carry a gentle, hypnotic quality. Instead of sharp cuts that snap you abruptly from one moment to the next, the film uses dissolves, fades, and lingering shots that softly glide between locations and emotions. This technique strengthens the film's dreamlike atmosphere. Time folds and overlaps, and scenes sometimes feel like echoes of each other. This approach to editing supports the movie's central concept of cycles and déjà vu, making the viewing experience immersive and subtly disorienting. You start to feel the rhythm of this world, a slow pulse that never quite breaks free from its repetitive pattern. As the plot thickens and the mystery of Baker's reality begins to unravel, the editing rhythm shifts. The earlier languid pace tightens, and the cuts become quicker, injecting a sense of urgency that matches Baker's growing desperation. It's as if the editor is pulling the tension taut, moving from a meditative, almost hypnotic tempo to a more rapid-fire rhythm that propels the story forward. This contrast between the slow burn and the sudden acceleration keeps you hooked, constantly recalibrating your emotional investment. The pacing cleverly mirrors Baker's mental state, from resigned acceptance of his routine to frantic attempts to break free, making the editing not just functional but deeply intertwined with the narrative. One of the most fascinating editorial choices lies in how the film handles repetition and subtle variation. The editor repeats certain sequences and actions with just enough change to unsettle you. A repeated phone call, a similar conversation, a familiar scene viewed from a slightly different angle. This looping structure isn't just a gimmick. It's an integral storytelling device that reinforces the simulation-like nature of Baker's existence. Watching these repeated moments closely becomes a puzzle, a challenge to spot the differences and understand their significance. The editing here becomes almost experimental, playing with time and memory, and inviting the audience into the protagonist's fractured perception of reality. The pacing also shapes how the film builds suspense and emotional weight. The slow unfolding of scenes early on gives you time to connect emotionally with Baker, to feel the weariness and resignation that weigh on him. The editor resists the temptation to rush through exposition, instead letting conversations and interactions breathe, allowing characters' emotions to surface naturally. This measured pacing pays off when tension spikes, as the emotional beats land with more impact due to the careful build-up. The shift to a faster pace later feels earned, not forced, heightening the stakes without overwhelming the audience. The editing plays with time and memory in subtle ways that add layers of complexity to the narrative. Flashbacks and glimpses of past events are interwoven smoothly, sometimes without clear markers, blurring the lines between past and present. This technique deepens the mystery and keeps you guessing, reinforcing the idea that Baker's reality is unstable and unreliable. The editor's skill lies in balancing these temporal shifts so that they intrigue without confusing, maintaining clarity while embracing ambiguity. The effect is a puzzle you're invited to piece together, with the editing guiding your journey through fragmented memories and shifting perceptions. In moments of heightened tension or emotional intensity, the editing sharpens its focus dramatically. Cuts become tighter, scenes are trimmed to increase pace, and close-ups dominate, pulling you into Baker's psychological turmoil. This dynamic change in rhythm amplifies the suspense, making you feel the protagonist's anxiety and urgency as if you're right there beside him. The editing doesn't just show the action, it makes you feel it, turning the film's tempo into an emotional roller coaster that rises and falls with the plot's twists. At the same time, the editor's restraint in certain scenes allows for a contemplative mood that's rare in thrillers. Instead of bombarding the audience with quick cuts and sensory overload, the film pauses to let the atmosphere settle, to let silence and stillness speak. These quieter moments offer a chance to reflect, to absorb the emotional complexity of the characters, and to sense the underlying dread simmering beneath the surface calm. The editing here becomes a breathing space, a moment to gather your thoughts before the next wave of revelations hits. Overall, the editing and pacing in Serenity act as a narrative engine that carefully modulates the film's emotional temperature. The early slow pace draws you into the mysterious, repetitive world, building a foundation of mood and character that grounds the story. As the plot progresses, the pacing accelerates, injecting energy and suspense that keep the audience engaged and invested. The thoughtful use of repetition, temporal shifts, and rhythm makes the editing feel like an active storyteller rather than just a technical necessity. It shapes how you experience the film's themes of memory, identity, and escape, making the journey as compelling and layered as the story itself. The soundtrack and score of Serenity act like an unseen, yet profoundly felt, presence throughout the film, almost like a character of its own that breathes life into the narrative's emotional core. From the very beginning, the music introduces a mood that is equal parts haunting and soothing, perfectly capturing the film's delicate balance between mystery, melancholy, and surreal tension. Instead of overwhelming the scenes with bombastic or flashy cues, the score maintains a quiet, almost whispering presence that gently nudges the viewer's emotions without dictating them. It's this subtlety that makes the soundtrack so compelling. It seeps into your consciousness, wrapping itself around the visuals and dialogue to create an immersive sensory experience. One of the most remarkable aspects of the soundtrack is its use of recurring musical motifs, which function like tiny threads weaving through the entire fabric of the film. These motifs are short, haunting phrases that echo again and again, mirroring the narrative's cyclical and repetitive structure. Much like the story's time loops and Baker's recurring routines, the music loops back on itself, creating a sense of déjà vu that's both comforting and disconcerting. Each time a motif reappears, it feels like a subtle reminder of the trapped, simulated nature of Baker's world, prompting you to listen more carefully, to pick up on slight changes in tone or instrumentation that hint at shifting emotions or revelations. This clever musical technique deepens the connection between the viewer and the film's themes without ever becoming intrusive or monotonous. The instrumentation chosen for the score adds another rich layer to the film's sonic landscape. A delicate mix of soft piano notes, ambient synthesizers, and subtle string arrangements crafts a sound that is simultaneously organic and otherworldly. The gentle piano melodies evoke a sense of nostalgia and introspection, almost as if the music itself is telling a story alongside Baker's own fragmented memories. Meanwhile, the ambient synths and atmospheric textures create a drifting, ethereal quality that mirrors the foggy island setting and the uncertain nature of reality within the film. This fusion of acoustic and electronic sounds allows the score to ebb and flow with the narrative's emotional tides, from serene and meditative moments to darker, more suspenseful sequences. A striking and effective element of the sound design is how silence is used as powerfully as the music itself. Throughout the film, there are numerous stretches where the score pulls back completely, leaving only natural environmental sounds like the crashing of waves, the rustling of leaves, or the creaking of wooden boats. These quiet moments amplify the sense of isolation and introspection that permeates Baker's world, making the viewer hyper-aware of the setting and the character's emotional state. The absence of music here is not empty but charged, creating tension and space for the audience's imagination to fill in the gaps. When the score re-enters after these silences, its impact feels heightened, as if the music is awakening from a hush to underscore key emotional beats or shifts in the story. The way the score supports the film's emotional moments is a testament to its nuanced composition. During scenes of vulnerability or revelation, the music swells with a gentle, heartfelt resonance, underscoring the character's inner struggles without overpowering the dialogue or performances. For example, when Baker wrestles with painful memories or confronts the fragile nature of his reality, the music guides your emotions delicately, lending weight to these moments without resorting to melodrama. The score becomes a kind of emotional compass, subtly steering you through the highs and lows of the narrative, ensuring that every revelation lands with the intended depth and resonance. In scenes charged with suspense or mystery, the soundtrack takes on a more ominous and atmospheric tone. Deep drones, whispering synths, and sparse percussive elements weave together to create an auditory undercurrent of unease. These sounds hover just beneath the surface, like shadows lurking in the corners of the frame, hinting at hidden dangers and psychological turmoil. The music's restrained approach in these moments intensifies the tension by suggestion rather than explicitness, keeping you on edge without relying on cliched jump scares or loud, jarring effects. This atmospheric layering enriches the film's suspenseful vibe, working in tandem with the cinematography and editing to heighten the viewer's sense of disquiet and anticipation. Another remarkable aspect is how seamlessly the score blends with the film's diegetic sounds, those noises that exist within the world of the story itself, like the clinking of glasses, footsteps on wood, or the distant cries of seagulls. The composer and sound designers have carefully layered the music so that it feels like a natural extension of the environment, rather than an overlay imposed on it. This integration enhances the immersive quality of the film, making the island setting and Baker's experience feel tangible and lived in. The soundtrack becomes part of the atmosphere itself, as if the music is breathing with the landscape and echoing the emotional currents running through the characters. The interplay between music and silence, melody and ambient noise, creates a dynamic auditory experience that mirrors the film's thematic complexity. The score doesn't just accompany the story. It deepens the viewer's emotional engagement, heightening suspense, emphasizing introspection, and reinforcing the unsettling nature of the narrative. It's a masterclass in restraint and subtlety. Music that knows when to hold back and when to gently push forward, making every note count. Ultimately, the soundtrack and score in Serenity elevate the film beyond a conventional thriller or drama. They craft an immersive soundscape that pulls you inside Baker's world, heightening the sense of mystery and emotional depth with every chord and silence. The music captures the film's essence, its themes of memory, identity, and the search for truth, and transforms the viewing experience into something that resonates long after the credits roll. This thoughtful, layered sound design invites the audience not just to watch Serenity but to feel it deeply, making the film's journey unforgettable on a sensory and emotional level. Serenity is much more than just a slick psychological thriller. It's a deep dive into some of the most intriguing and complex themes that tug at the core of human experience. The film's narrative acts like a puzzle, but the pieces don't just fit together to reveal a mystery. They also come together to form a meditation on identity, reality, memory, and control. It's these layered themes that give the film its lasting punch, making you want to unravel it long after the credits roll. What's fascinating is how these ideas aren't shoved in your face but woven seamlessly into the story's fabric, allowing you to discover them naturally as the plot twists and turns. At the heart of Serenity is the battle between control and freedom, a theme that threads through every scene like a subtle but persistent current. Baker Dill appears to be a man stuck in a predictable life on a serene island, but as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that this calm existence might be a carefully controlled illusion. The film asks a powerful question. Just how much freedom do we really have? Are we captains of our own destiny, or are we mere players in a scripted reality designed by outside forces? This exploration taps into a universal anxiety about autonomy and the unseen systems that govern our lives. Instead of offering easy answers, Serenity lets you stew in the discomfort of uncertainty, making you question how much of your own world might be similarly manipulated or preordained. Memory and its fragility play a pivotal role in this thematic tapestry. The movie doesn't just treat memory as a tool for storytelling but dives deep into its psychological implications. Baker's memories are unreliable, fractured, and sometimes contradictory. Just like how human memory works in real life, affected by trauma, repression, and time. The film cleverly uses this unreliability to blur the lines between truth and illusion, making the audience second-guess everything they see and hear. It's a meditation on how much our identity depends on the stories we tell ourselves about our past, and what happens when those stories begin to unravel. By focusing on this, Serenity taps into a profound fear: losing grasp of who we are when the memories that anchor us start to fade or distort. Escapism is another theme that pulses beneath the surface throughout the film. The island setting itself is like a beautiful cage, a paradise that seems idyllic but is actually a trap. This duality speaks volumes about the human desire to run away from pain, trauma, or harsh realities. Baker's world is a constructed sanctuary where the messy, painful truths are tucked away, replaced by a calm that's too good to be true. The film challenges the audience to think about the price of such escapism. Is it better to live in a perfect illusion if it means avoiding suffering, or is confronting the truth, no matter how painful, the only way to truly live? This theme resonates quietly but powerfully, adding emotional complexity to the narrative's surface mystery. Identity is another fascinating layer in Serenity. The protagonist's journey is as much about self-discovery as it is about solving the external mystery. The film suggests that identity is not a fixed, unchanging entity but something fluid and fragile, shaped by memory, trauma, and choice. Baker's fragmented sense of self reflects how real people often grapple with conflicting versions of who they are or who they want to be. This fluidity of identity is woven through the narrative, inviting the audience to question not just Baker's reality but their own sense of self. It's a thoughtful exploration of how we piece together our identities from sometimes incomplete or conflicting information, making the character's emotional journey all the more compelling. What makes these themes hit home so well is the film's refusal to be preachy or heavy-handed. The ideas arise naturally from the character's experiences and the unfolding story rather than feeling like forced messages. This subtlety encourages viewers to engage actively with the film, piecing together clues and reflecting on the deeper questions it raises without feeling lectured. It's a clever balance that makes the movie both intellectually stimulating and emotionally engaging. The theme of perception versus reality is brilliantly executed through the film's structure and storytelling. Scenes that initially seem straightforward gain new meaning as twists reveal hidden layers or contradict earlier impressions. This constant shifting challenges viewers to stay alert and question the reliability of what they see, echoing the film's thematic concerns about truth and illusion. The experience feels almost interactive, as if the audience is invited to solve a puzzle while simultaneously pondering philosophical questions about the nature of reality. Emotional depth underpins all these themes, especially in how the film deals with loss, regret, and the desire for redemption. Baker's story is not just an intellectual exercise. It's also a profoundly human tale of a man wrestling with his past and searching for peace. The film uses its mystery framework to explore vulnerability and the longing to heal, grounding its philosophical musings in real, relatable emotions. This combination of cerebral ideas with heartfelt storytelling gives the film a rich emotional texture, making the themes resonate on multiple levels. There's also a subtle commentary on how trauma shapes not just memory but identity and behavior. Baker's fractured reality and emotional struggles highlight the lasting impact of trauma, the ways it can distort perception, and the desperate measures people take to shield themselves from pain. The film's exploration of trauma isn't explicit but woven into its very atmosphere, enhancing the sense of unease and emotional tension that permeates the narrative. All these themes together create a film experience that is both thrilling and thought-provoking. Serenity manages to entertain while also inviting deep reflection on some of life's biggest questions. What it means to be free, how we construct our identities, the nature of reality, and the complex interplay between memory and self. It's a rare balance that makes the movie more than just a story to watch. It becomes a story to think about, discuss, and revisit. The thematic richness ensures that the film stays with you, quietly nudging you to ponder its questions long after you've left the theater. When diving deeper into the visual effects and CGI of Serenity, what truly stands out is the film's commitment to subtlety and seamless integration, something that's surprisingly rare in today's cinema landscape, where many films lean heavily on bombastic digital effects that can often pull you out of the story. Here, the VFX team made a conscious choice to keep the effects understated, which creates a visual experience that feels immersive rather than overwhelming. Instead of dazzling the audience with flashy explosions or grand spectacle, the effects work quietly behind the scenes, gently enhancing the world rather than shouting for attention. The island setting in Serenity is almost a character itself, and the visual effects enhance its enigmatic beauty in ways that keep you intrigued. The digital artistry extends beyond mere background enhancements. Think subtle shifts in lighting, atmospheric touches like drifting mist, and delicate alterations to the environment that hint at something slightly off beneath the surface. These effects don't dominate the frame but add texture and mood, helping the audience feel the island's eerie and dreamlike qualities. Whether it's the soft glow of the sunrise over the water or the shadows creeping in the dense forest, the CGI blends flawlessly with the practical shots, making the entire world believable yet infused with a sense of unease. The practical effects in Serenity also deserve high praise because they ground the film in reality. The tangible elements, worn boats, weathered docks, the texture of sand and wood, feel authentic and lived in. When the camera lingers on these physical details, it enhances the tactile experience of the story, drawing you into Baker's seemingly ordinary life before the layers of mystery unfold. This groundedness makes the moments where the visual effects subtly warp or shift the environment even more effective, as they contrast with the realism established by practical sets and natural locations. It's a brilliant interplay between the tangible and the intangible, the real and the artificial. What's particularly clever is how the CGI is employed to reinforce the film's themes of fractured reality and unreliable perception. There are moments where the environment subtly distorts, a reflection that doesn't quite match, a background that warps for just a second, or shadows that seem to move oddly. These touches are small but powerful, creating a sense of disorientation that mirrors Baker's own mental state. The effects aren't just decorative, they're woven into the narrative fabric, making the audience question what's real alongside the protagonist. It's a sophisticated use of visual effects that adds psychological depth and helps build tension without resorting to cheap tricks. The pacing of how effects appear throughout the film also contributes to the mood. Instead of bombarding viewers early on, the digital enhancements creep in gradually, almost subliminally, ramping up the sense of mystery and unreality as the plot thickens. This slow build helps maintain immersion and ensures the effects feel earned rather than gratuitous. It's like a visual whisper that grows louder as you dive deeper into the story's twists and turns. Another impressive aspect is how the visual effects team worked in harmony with the cinematographer and director to ensure everything felt cohesive. The lighting and color grading complement the CGI so well that it's often hard to tell where practical ends and digital begins, which is exactly what a well-executed visual effects approach should do. This unity helps preserve the film's atmospheric tone, whether in the bright, peaceful daylight scenes or the shadowy, tension-filled nights. Every frame feels carefully crafted, with the effects enhancing the composition and emotional weight of each scene. The film's approach to blending practical and digital effects also underscores a broader trend in filmmaking where less can be more. Instead of relying solely on CGI to create a world, Serenity respects the power of tangible, real-world textures and locations, using digital effects to elevate rather than replace them. This choice not only serves the story better, but also provides a richer sensory experience for the viewer. The creak of a wooden boat, the spray of ocean mist, the play of sunlight through trees. All these details feel alive and authentic, making the moments of visual trickery stand out even more sharply. From a technical perspective, the CGI in Serenity is polished and professional without feeling overdone. The effects team made sure that every digital element matched the film's naturalistic aesthetic. When the environment warps or glitches, it's carefully crafted to look organic rather than artificial, which is a tough balance to strike. This kind of subtlety shows a real mastery of visual effects, using technology not to dazzle, but to deepen the narrative and emotional impact. Additionally, the film avoids the common pitfall of letting CGI become a distraction. There's never a moment where you're pulled out of the story because something looks fake or out of place. Instead, the effects serve as an invisible thread tying together the film's mysterious atmosphere and psychological themes. This invisibility is an art in itself, as it demands precision and restraint from the visual effects artists. In some key scenes, the visual effects also enhance the storytelling by hinting at the fragility of Baker's world. When reality seems to ripple or bend, the CGI acts almost like a visual metaphor for his internal confusion and the constructed nature of his existence. These moments are subtle but powerful, adding layers of meaning that encourage viewers to read between the lines. The effects don't just support the plot, they enrich it, making the film feel like a puzzle you piece together visually and mentally. The sound design often works hand in hand with the visual effects to heighten these moments of uncertainty. For example, when the scenery subtly shifts or glitches, the audio might warp slightly or drop to silence, intensifying the sensation that something isn't quite right. This audio-visual synergy amplifies the immersive experience, pulling you further into the unsettling mystery that underpins the film. Ultimately, Serenity shows that when visual effects are thoughtfully integrated and used to serve the story, they can transform a film from a straightforward thriller into an atmospheric, haunting experience. The blend of practical and digital effects crafts a world that feels both believable and slightly off-kilter, mirroring the film's themes of illusion, control, and identity. The visual effects here don't just create eye candy. They become an essential storytelling device, shaping your perception and emotional response as you unravel the film's deeper mysteries. It's a masterclass in subtlety and craftsmanship, proving that sometimes the most effective effects are the ones you barely notice but feel profoundly. When we take a deeper dive into the set design and locations of Serenity, it becomes crystal clear how much thought and care went into crafting a world that isn't just a stage for the story but a vital, breathing entity in its own right. Right from the very first glimpse of the island, you're immersed in a place that feels tactile, weathered, and alive. A place with its own past, personality, and secrets lurking just beneath the surface. This isn't some generic, picturesque location slapped onto the screen for aesthetic purposes. Every detail has been curated to add richness, depth, and authenticity to the narrative. The island setting feels raw and natural, with a kind of rugged charm that tells you it's seen generations of lives pass through it. The rocky shorelines, tangled underbrush, and salt spray air practically reach out and grab you, pulling you into Baker Dill's world. This immersive quality is no accident. The production design team clearly scouted and dressed locations with a fine-toothed comb, ensuring that each scene's environment complements the film's tone and themes. It's this level of care that makes the island not just a backdrop but almost a character unto itself, full of mood swings and silent stories. Every location has layers of detail that reward close attention. Baker's boat, for instance, is a masterclass in set dressing. It's cluttered yet functional, a cramped and cozy vessel that reflects the man who inhabits it. Weathered wood, peeling paint, fishing nets hung like trophies or reminders, scattered tools, and a jumble of personal effects all come together to create a space that feels utterly lived in. The boat becomes a tangible extension of Baker's identity. His solitude, his hard work, and the burden of his past. It's easy to imagine the boat creaking under the weight of both the sea and Baker's memories, adding emotional resonance through its authenticity. The town scenes are equally impressive. Unlike a sanitized or romanticized small town, the film's version feels gritty and real, with a lived-in quality that speaks to everyday struggles and communal ties. The shop fronts, faded signage, uneven sidewalks, and cluttered porches suggest a community that's weathered storms, economic hardship, and the slow passage of time. These visual cues build a believable social fabric, grounding the story's more mysterious elements in a recognizable reality. The presence of ordinary tangible objects, old newspapers, battered vehicles, rusted tools, gives the world texture and weight, inviting viewers to imagine the lives lived in the shadows of the narrative. What's especially fascinating is how the production design uses spatial relationships to underscore themes of isolation and control. The tight, confined spaces inside Baker's boat or home contrast sharply with the vast, open but sometimes forbidding outdoor landscapes. This tension between claustrophobia and openness mirrors Baker's internal conflict, the way he is both trapped by and trying to escape his past. The physical environments shape the story just as much as the dialogue or plot, with narrow hallways and low ceilings amplifying feelings of entrapment, while the endless ocean and wild island landscapes evoke freedom, mystery, and the unknown. Lighting and color palettes within these sets are meticulously chosen to further enhance mood and character. The warm, muted tones inside Baker's quarters offer a sense of comfort and nostalgia, but these colors often give way to colder, harsher shades in scenes where tension mounts or revelations unfold. Subtle touches like the flicker of a dim lamp or the muted green of moss-covered walls contribute to an atmosphere that feels intimate yet unsettling. The sets respond to the emotional beats of the story, evolving in tone as Baker's journey twists and turns, reinforcing the narrative without ever being intrusive. Another standout element is how the production design team balanced natural beauty with a creeping sense of decay and unease. The island isn't just a pretty postcard, it's full of imperfections. Peeling paint, rusted metal, broken windows, that hint at neglect, history, and hidden darkness. This visual duality enriches the film's themes, suggesting that beneath the surface of beauty lies something more complicated, mysterious, and possibly sinister. It's a clever way to keep the audience visually engaged while building suspense and curiosity. The props and set dressing play a huge role in storytelling without words. Every object seems to have a history or a function that informs the characters' lives. A cracked mug on a kitchen table, a stack of worn letters tied with string, a faded photograph pinned to a bulletin board. All these details invite viewers to piece together backstories and emotional subtext. These carefully chosen artifacts transform the spaces from mere locations into emotional landscapes, where memories linger and secrets hide. Visually, the sets offer a rich playground for the cinematographer and director to craft memorable compositions. The production design's attention to detail means that the framing of each shot is loaded with meaning. Whether it's a lonely figure silhouetted against a vast horizon or a close-up on a cluttered corner filled with meaningful objects, the environments help tell the story on multiple levels. The sets guide your eye and emotions, creating visual metaphors for isolation, memory, and the fractured nature of reality that Serenity explores. The film also uses the interplay of interior and exterior spaces to highlight characters' emotional states and relationships. Moments inside tight, dimly lit rooms feel intimate and sometimes suffocating, emphasizing personal conflicts or hidden fears. Conversely, the open, wild outdoor shots evoke feelings of possibility, escape, or sometimes overwhelming uncertainty. This contrast adds a dynamic rhythm to the film's visual storytelling, helping viewers feel the push and pull of Baker's internal world. Finally, the production design's subtle nods to the film's more surreal and unsettling elements create a lingering sense of mystery. Small details, like objects slightly out of place, flickering lights, or the uncanny quietness of certain spaces, invite viewers to sense that all is not quite as it seems. These tiny visual clues help build an atmosphere of suspense and curiosity without resorting to obvious or heavy-handed tricks. All in all, the set design and locations in Serenity do much more than just set the scene. They enrich the film's world with texture, mood, and narrative depth. They provide a believable, visually compelling foundation that supports the story's emotional and thematic complexity. The production design transforms the island and its spaces into immersive environments that draw the audience fully into Baker's haunting journey, making the physical world feel as alive and mysterious as the story itself. It's a powerful reminder that great set design isn't just about looks. It's about creating a world you want to step into, linger in, and explore long after the credits roll. When you really sink your teeth into the dialogue and script of Serenity, what stands out immediately is how the writing manages to feel both effortlessly natural and deeply purposeful. It's the kind of script that doesn't shout for your attention but instead pulls you in slowly, weaving its web through conversations that mirror real life in their rhythms and cadences, yet sparkle with meaning beneath the surface. The dialogue serves as more than just a vehicle to push the plot. It's the lifeblood of the characters, revealing their inner worlds, their unspoken fears, desires, and regrets in ways that feel genuine and layered. One of the most striking qualities of the script is how unforced the dialogue sounds. It doesn't fall into the trap of sounding overly polished or scripted, which can so often pull you out of a film. Instead, characters speak like people you might know, sometimes clipped, sometimes rambling, occasionally biting, and often tinged with the emotional baggage they carry. This creates a strong sense of realism, inviting you into their lives rather than watching them from a distance. Whether it's the banter between Baker Dill and the townsfolk or more intimate exchanges that peel back the layers of his character, the dialogue feels grounded in lived experience. Yet beneath this naturalism lies a keen intelligence and sharpness. The script is sprinkled with moments of dry humor, wit, and clever wordplay that add much-needed levity without breaking the film's overall tension. These moments come not from forced jokes but from the characters' personalities shining through, especially Baker's world-weary outlook and his sardonic observations. This interplay of humor and seriousness keeps the tone balanced and the audience engaged, creating a texture that feels rich and human. The film trusts its viewers enough to let the humor arise organically, which makes the laughs feel all the more rewarding. Emotional weight is handled with similar finesse. The dialogue carries a quiet power, often hitting hard in understated ways rather than through grand declarations or melodrama. When characters reveal their pain or wrestle with difficult truths, the writing doesn't dramatize or exaggerate. Instead, it presents these moments with subtlety and respect. The silences between lines speak volumes, reminding us that what's left unsaid can be just as meaningful as what's spoken. This kind of writing invites the audience to lean in, to fill the gaps with their own emotional understanding, which creates a more immersive and impactful experience. The script is also peppered with standout lines that linger in the mind long after the film ends. These aren't just catchy one-liners or over-the-top statements. They're carefully crafted phrases that distill complex emotions or pivotal plot points into a few words. Often, these lines carry double meanings or hint at secrets lurking beneath the surface, encouraging viewers to think more deeply about the story. Whether it's a terse, loaded statement that shifts the tone of a scene or a quietly profound observation about life and loss, these moments give the film a distinct voice and identity. Language is used cleverly throughout to reinforce the film's mood and themes. The way characters speak to each other is layered with subtext, sometimes polite on the surface but edged with suspicion, resentment, or longing underneath. The script doesn't spell everything out explicitly, choosing instead to suggest and imply, trusting the audience's intelligence. This nuanced writing style builds tension and mystery, making conversations feel charged with meaning and anticipation. It's the kind of dialogue that rewards repeat viewings because you pick up new shades and clues each time. At the heart of this script is Baker Dill, whose dialogue perfectly encapsulates his complex persona. His words carry the weight of experience and loss, tinged with a weary cynicism but also flickers of hope and longing. Baker doesn't just say things. His speech reveals his guarded nature and the emotional walls he's built around himself. His interactions are layered with ambiguity, sometimes defensive, sometimes revealing cracks in his tough exterior. This makes him a compelling figure, and the dialogue is key to making that complexity palpable and relatable. Supporting characters are equally well served by the script. Each has a distinct voice and personality that comes through clearly in their speech, preventing them from blending into the background. Whether it's the sharp retorts of the local sheriff or the softer, mysterious words of a stranger, their dialogue adds richness and variety to the story's soundscape. This diversity keeps interactions feeling fresh and unpredictable, which maintains the audience's interest and deepens the world building. The pacing of the dialogue is another subtle strength of the script. It moves at a rhythm that feels organic, sometimes quick and tense, other times slow and reflective, mirroring the emotional currents of the story. This ebb and flow helps build suspense when needed and gives space for the quieter moments to resonate emotionally. The script knows when to let conversations breathe and when to tighten the reins, which keeps the film engaging without overwhelming the viewer. Beyond just advancing the plot or fleshing out characters, the dialogue in Serenity often serves as a thematic tool. Through what is said, and what is deliberately left unsaid, the film explores ideas about control, freedom, memory, and identity. The script's language choices echo these themes, using metaphor, irony, and subtext to enrich the story's layers. This approach makes the film feel like a puzzle you want to keep turning over in your mind, where the dialogue is a key piece that unlocks deeper meaning. In short, the dialogue and script of Serenity stand out as a masterclass in writing that balances authenticity with artistry. The conversations aren't just there to fill time or explain plot points. They reveal character, build atmosphere, and invite emotional investment. The sharp wit, emotional depth, memorable lines, and layered subtext all come together to create a narrative voice that is uniquely compelling. This thoughtful writing turns ordinary exchanges into moments charged with significance, making the film's world feel lived in, complex, and endlessly fascinating. The script is a quiet powerhouse that fuels the entire experience, reminding us how powerful good dialogue can be when it's crafted with care, intelligence, and heart. When it comes to genre, Serenity plays an intriguing game of both following and twisting expectations, delivering a cocktail that's equal parts thriller, mystery, and psychological drama. It doesn't just settle for ticking off boxes from a genre checklist. Instead, it flirts with familiar tropes while injecting enough fresh energy and unexpected turns to keep you guessing. At first glance, it might look like your classic thriller set in a sleepy coastal town, but dig a little deeper, and you realize this film enjoys pulling the rug out from under you in ways that feel clever rather than cheap. Right from the start, Serenity leans into some genre staples. There's the mysterious past haunting the protagonist, a web of secrets lurking beneath a calm surface, and escalating tension that hints at danger around every corner. These are classic thriller ingredients, and the film uses them skillfully to build suspense and maintain an edge-of-your-seat vibe. But unlike some thrillers that go all in on non-stop action or jump scares, this movie opts for a slow burn, letting the suspense simmer and the psychological stakes rise. It's more about the unseen threats, emotional turmoil, and moral ambiguity than about gunfights or explosive set pieces. This pacing choice plays with the audience's expectations in an engaging way. You think you're settling into a conventional thriller, but the film takes detours into quiet moments of introspection, weird character interactions, and subtle symbolism that feel almost surreal at times. The blend of psychological drama with thriller elements adds depth and complexity, giving you plenty to chew on beyond the surface tension. This mixture makes the film stand out in a crowded genre, where many stories can feel like carbon copies of one another. Humor in Serenity is a subtle but welcome seasoning that balances out the heavier themes without undercutting the tension. The film isn't a comedy by any stretch, but it weaves in dry, sometimes sardonic humor that feels organic to the characters, especially through Baker Dill's weary, slightly world-weary perspective. These moments provide a breather and a glimpse into character personalities, making the story more relatable and human. The humor also adds layers to the genre experience, reminding us that even in dark, suspenseful stories, there's room for levity and complexity. The film also dabbles in a bit of mystery, layering clues and red herrings in ways that keep the viewer guessing. It doesn't reveal everything up front, respecting the intelligence of the audience by gradually unraveling its secrets. This approach creates a satisfying puzzle-like experience, where each revelation recontextualizes what came before, adding twists that avoid feeling predictable or forced. The mystery element enriches the genre blend, turning what might have been a straightforward thriller into a multi-dimensional experience. What's especially interesting is how Serenity subverts some genre clichés without outright rejecting them. For instance, the small town with dark secrets trope is present but treated with nuance. The setting feels alive, not just a backdrop for generic thrills. Characters who might have been one-dimensional in a lesser film are given depth and contradictions that keep them from fitting neatly into typical roles like the villain or the damsel in distress. This refusal to settle for easy archetypes adds unpredictability and emotional weight, elevating the film above formulaic storytelling. The film's balance between action, suspense, and drama is carefully calibrated. Action isn't the driving force here. Instead, it's used sparingly but effectively, punctuating the narrative at key moments to jolt the audience without overwhelming the psychological and emotional undercurrents. Suspense builds steadily, crafted through atmosphere, dialogue, and pacing rather than spectacle. Drama takes center stage, with complex character dynamics and moral dilemmas that invite the viewer to wrestle with uncomfortable questions alongside the characters. There's also a layer of existential unease woven through the film that goes beyond typical genre fare. It plays with ideas of control, fate, and identity in ways that give the story a philosophical edge. This thematic ambition sets Serenity apart from many thrillers that stick strictly to plot mechanics. It uses the genre framework not just for entertainment but as a lens to explore deeper questions, enriching the viewing experience. In the end, Serenity delights in mixing and matching genre elements, creating something that feels familiar enough to be accessible but fresh enough to surprise. It embraces its thriller roots while pushing boundaries with psychological complexity, smart writing, and emotional depth. This blend keeps you engaged and guessing, offering more than just the usual adrenaline rush, a layered, thoughtful journey through suspense, mystery, and human frailty wrapped in the stylish packaging of a genre film that knows how to entertain and provoke at the same time. Serenity isn't just about thrills and mystery. Beneath its surface, it carries a quiet, thoughtful pulse that taps into some pretty interesting social and cultural veins. It's the kind of film that sneaks in commentary without hitting you over the head with it, weaving these ideas into the fabric of the story so they feel like a natural part of the world and the characters, rather than something tacked on to seem relevant. This subtlety is where the film really shines, making its messages more impactful because they arise from the narrative itself, rather than feeling like a separate agenda. One of the most compelling threads running through the film is its exploration of power dynamics. How control is exercised, who holds it, and what happens when it slips away. This isn't just about obvious authority figures. It plays out in personal relationships, community tensions, and even within the protagonist's own psyche. The film taps into contemporary anxieties about autonomy and manipulation, reflecting a broader cultural fascination with who really holds the reins in our lives, whether it's governments, corporations, or more intimate forces like memory and trauma. It's fascinating to see these themes emerge naturally through the characters' struggles rather than through heavy-handed speeches or obvious symbolism. The film also subtly probes issues of identity and self-perception in a world that often feels fragmented and uncertain. Baker Dill's journey isn't just about solving an external mystery. It's deeply tied to his own sense of who he is, how much control he has over his past, and whether he can reshape his future. This taps into contemporary cultural conversations about mental health, trauma, and the complexity of human psychology, subjects that are often difficult to handle without slipping into clichés or stereotypes. Serenity manages to approach these topics with nuance and sensitivity, showing the messy, non-linear reality of personal healing without resorting to neat resolutions. Another fascinating layer is how the film reflects on the idea of escapism versus confrontation. In a world bombarded by constant stimuli and pressures, the desire to run away from problems or bury painful memories is deeply relatable. Yet Serenity challenges this impulse, showing how running away often only delays the inevitable confrontation with truth and responsibility. This message feels timely in an era when escapism is both more accessible and more complicated than ever, whether through technology, media, or personal denial. The film's handling of this theme feels organic, flowing from character choices and plot developments rather than feeling like a moralizing lecture. The setting of the film, a seemingly peaceful insular coastal town, acts as a microcosm for broader social dynamics. It brings to life tensions between appearance and reality, community and isolation, the past and the present. These tensions mirror real-world cultural issues about belonging, trust, and the hidden fractures beneath social harmony. The way Serenity explores these ideas is subtle but rich, using the setting as more than just a backdrop but as a character in its own right that influences and reflects the story's emotional landscape. When it comes to politics, the film doesn't dive into overt commentary or partisan debates, but it does touch on the idea of moral ambiguity and the gray areas of decision-making. Characters often face complex choices without clear right or wrong answers, reflecting a world where easy moral certainties are rare. This ambivalence resonates with contemporary cultural skepticism toward simplistic narratives, inviting viewers to wrestle with the same uncertainties as the characters. It's a mature approach that respects the audience's intelligence and acknowledges the complexity of real life. Importantly, the film's approach to sensitive topics feels respectful and humanizing rather than exploitative or sensationalized. Whether it's grappling with grief, regret, or identity, the treatment is grounded in empathy and realism. This kind of storytelling builds emotional connection rather than alienation, encouraging viewers to engage with difficult issues on a personal level. It's a reminder that films can entertain and provoke thought without sacrificing warmth or complexity. Serenity also subtly comments on the idea of storytelling itself, how narratives shape our understanding of truth and memory. The film plays with the notion that stories can be both revealing and deceptive, shaping identity and influencing perception. This meta-awareness adds another layer of cultural commentary about how we consume and create meaning in the modern world. It's a clever touch that enriches the film's thematic depth without becoming too abstract or preachy. Overall, the social and cultural commentary in Serenity is like an undercurrent, never shouted, but always present, adding richness and resonance. It invites viewers to reflect on control, identity, memory, and morality in ways that feel both timely and timeless. By embedding these ideas naturally within its narrative and characters, the film creates a thoughtful, engaging experience that stays with you long after the credits roll, proving that genre films can carry weighty ideas without losing their entertainment value. Serenity doesn't just sit quietly on the screen waiting for you to passively watch. It grabs you, pulls you in, and won't let go easily. From the very first moments, it creates this emotional undercurrent that starts small but grows steadily, weaving its way into your mind and heart. It's the kind of film that knows exactly when to crank up the tension and when to dial it back for a quiet, almost intimate beat. Because of this careful emotional choreography, you'll find yourself riding a roller coaster of feelings throughout the story. There are moments designed to make you lean forward in your seat, heart-pounding, breath-catching, where the suspense reaches a peak and the stakes feel genuinely high. But Serenity isn't all adrenaline. It also knows how to slow down and deliver emotional punches that hit deep. You'll find scenes that tug at your empathy, where vulnerability and regret aren't just acted out but felt in a way that makes the characters' struggles resonate on a human level. It's not just about what's happening on screen but how it makes you feel, and that emotional connection is a big part of the film's power. Laughter sneaks in too, often in unexpected places, usually through dry, understated humor that feels natural rather than forced. These lighter moments serve as emotional breathers, giving you a chance to relax and reset before the next wave of tension or drama rolls in. This balance makes the emotional journey feel more real and less exhausting, a bit like how life itself mixes laughter and pain. Shock and surprise are handled with finesse. Instead of cheap jump scares or predictable twists, Serenity delivers reveals and turns that genuinely catch you off guard because they're earned through the story and character development. When something unexpected happens, it feels like a payoff for paying attention rather than a gimmick. These moments spark genuine excitement and keep you hooked, eager to see what will happen next. What's especially engaging about Serenity is how it invites you to think beyond the immediate story. It's a film that rewards attention and curiosity, planting subtle clues and thematic hints that linger in your mind long after the credits roll. Many viewers find themselves wanting to revisit the film, catching details they missed the first time or reinterpreting scenes with fresh insight. This kind of repeat viewing isn't just about spotting Easter eggs. It's about diving deeper into the emotional and psychological layers that give the story its richness. The film also sparks discussion, whether it's with friends, online communities, or just your own inner dialogue. Questions about the characters' motivations, the meaning behind certain scenes, or the nature of the story's mysteries invite reflection and debate. It's a film that doesn't hand you all the answers but encourages you to explore its ideas and interpretations. This active engagement keeps the experience alive well beyond the initial viewing. The emotional resonance is amplified by the performances, the direction, and the way the story unfolds, all working in harmony to pull you into the world of the film. You find yourself caring about the characters, invested in their outcomes, and moved by their struggles. Whether it's a moment of quiet sorrow, a flash of anger, or a glimmer of hope, Serenity connects on a fundamental human level. In a way, watching Serenity feels like stepping into a conversation that's both thrilling and intimate, where you're invited to feel deeply, question boldly, and engage actively. It's a cinematic experience that doesn't just entertain but resonates, making you laugh, gasp, think, and maybe even see a bit of yourself in its shadows. That kind of engagement is rare and valuable, turning a simple movie night into something memorable and meaningful. When you start stacking Serenity up against other films in its genre, it's like walking into a familiar room but noticing the furniture has been rearranged in a way that feels fresh and inviting. It carries the DNA of psychological thrillers and mysteries you might have seen before. Think layered characters, twisting plots, moody atmospheres, but it manages to sidestep the usual trap of feeling like a rehash. Instead, it carves out its own niche by blending those elements with a surprisingly intimate, almost poetic storytelling style. If you've seen movies like Gone Girl or Mystic River, you'll catch some echoes here. Complex characters wrestling with past traumas, small towns hiding big secrets, and narratives that keep you guessing. But where Serenity really stands out is in how it balances this familiar blueprint with a more introspective, psychological approach. It's less about high-octane thrills and more about the slow, creeping tension of uncovering uncomfortable truths about identity and choice. This gives the film a distinct flavor, a mood that feels more haunting and meditative than many genre counterparts that chase adrenaline or shock value. Comparing it to films within its director's body of work reveals an interesting progression too. The director is known for tight, character-driven stories, but Serenity pushes into more experimental territory with its narrative structure and thematic complexity. It doesn't settle for straightforward storytelling. Instead, it plays with perception and memory in ways that invite multiple viewings and deeper thought. This shows a boldness that isn't always present in the director's earlier, more conventional projects, signaling an artistic growth and willingness to take risks. Looking at Serenity in relation to other recent psychological thrillers, it feels like a breath of fresh air amid a sea of formulaic plots. Many films in this space rely heavily on plot twists or jump scares, but Serenity builds its suspense through mood, character psychology, and carefully crafted dialogue. The tension is quieter but no less gripping, creating an atmosphere that lingers long after the movie ends. This subtlety makes it a more nuanced experience, appealing to viewers who crave depth alongside mystery. The film also resists some of the clichés common in its genre. Instead of the typical femme fatale or the one-dimensional villain, characters here are complex and morally ambiguous. This adds layers of unpredictability and keeps the audience guessing, not just about the plot but about the characters' true intentions and feelings. It's a reminder that human nature doesn't fit neatly into boxes, which feels refreshing in a genre sometimes guilty of oversimplification. Compared to bigger franchise thrillers or high-budget Hollywood productions, Serenity takes a more restrained, artful approach. It's less about spectacle and more about atmosphere and internal conflict. This makes it feel more like a character study wrapped in a mystery than just another puzzle to solve. For fans of more cerebral or emotionally resonant thrillers, it offers a welcome alternative to the bombastic. If you're someone who appreciates films that reward patience and attention to detail, Serenity stands out by blending genre conventions with an auteur's touch. It offers the familiar comforts of a thriller, the suspense, the intrigue, the unanswered questions, while also inviting you to step into the characters' heads and experience their internal struggles in vivid, unsettling ways. This combination sets it apart from many other movies chasing quick thrills. In a nutshell, Serenity is like that quiet, unexpected gem in the thriller genre's crowded catalog. It respects the traditions of its genre but isn't afraid to challenge or expand them. Whether you're comparing it to classics, recent hits, or the director's previous films, it offers something that feels both familiar and refreshingly original. A thoughtful, stylish journey through suspense and psychology that sticks with you long after the lights go up. Diving into Serenity is like peeling back layers of an onion where every glance reveals something more complex, mysterious, and occasionally a little bit unsettling. The film is rich with symbolism and metaphor, almost as if the story we see on the surface is just the tip of an iceberg, and beneath it lies a whole world of hidden meanings and visual cues waiting to be unpacked. These aren't just pretty images or clever flourishes. They're woven deep into the fabric of the story, enhancing its themes and making the viewing experience much more rewarding for those who love to hunt for clues. One of the most striking symbolic elements in Serenity is the recurring presence of the ocean and the idea of water. The water isn't just a setting here. It's a metaphor for memory, emotion, and the subconscious. It's constantly moving, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent, much like the protagonist's mental state. The sea represents the unknown depths of the past, secrets hidden beneath the surface, and the constant ebb and flow of truth and deception. Scenes where water plays a key role often coincide with moments of revelation or emotional intensity, as if the characters are diving into the murky waters of their own histories and psyches. This water motif creates a haunting atmosphere that underscores the film's exploration of memory and identity. Another rich metaphor is the idea of fishing itself, which runs through the film like an undercurrent. Fishing becomes more than just a hobby or job for Baker Dill. It's a symbol for trying to catch hold of something elusive, truth, control, or even self-understanding. The way he casts his line, waits patiently, and sometimes reels in unexpected catches mirrors the story's unfolding mysteries and the unpredictability of life. Fishing here also represents the tension between passivity and action, patience and sudden force, which plays out in the characters' internal struggles and choices. Visual cues like mirrors and reflections pop up repeatedly, cleverly emphasizing the film's obsession with duality, identity, and self-perception. Characters often appear fragmented or distorted in reflections, hinting at fractured realities or hidden aspects of themselves. These moments encourage viewers to question what is real and what is illusion, reinforcing the film's themes of memory distortion and unreliable narration. It's a subtle but powerful device that keeps you alert to the layers beneath what the characters say and do. The film also toys with light and shadow, not just for mood but as a metaphor for knowledge and ignorance, clarity and confusion. Scenes bathed in shadow suggest secrets or doubts lurking just out of sight, while bursts of light often mark moments of truth or emotional breakthrough. The interplay between darkness and illumination mirrors the characters' journeys, moving back and forth between denial and acceptance, ignorance and understanding. Recurring motifs of birds, especially seagulls, add another layer of symbolism. Birds here represent freedom and escape, but also loneliness and vulnerability. Their presence in quiet moments serves as a reminder of the characters' desires to break free from their emotional cages, yet also highlights the isolation that often comes with that quest. This motif ties beautifully into the film's exploration of human connection and the struggle between isolation and intimacy. Objects like old photographs, letters, or seemingly insignificant trinkets appear at key points, acting as tangible anchors to the past. These items carry emotional weight and become symbolic of memory's fragility and the way the past clings to the present. They often trigger flashbacks or revelations, visually linking the narrative's present timeline with its buried secrets. Even the film's color palette feels symbolic, shifting subtly to reflect emotional states and thematic shifts. Cooler, muted tones dominate scenes of confusion and despair, while warmer hues surface during moments of clarity, hope, or connection. This use of color isn't just aesthetic. It guides the viewer's emotional response and deepens immersion in the story's mood. Serenity doesn't spoon-feed these symbols or metaphors. Instead, it trusts the audience to notice, interpret, and connect the dots, making watching it an interactive experience. The film encourages you to think beyond what's immediately visible, rewarding careful viewers with a richer understanding of its themes and emotional currents. Ultimately, the symbolism and metaphors in Serenity aren't just decorative. They're essential storytelling tools that transform the film from a simple thriller into a layered psychological and emotional journey. They invite viewers to explore not just the plot but the deeper questions about memory, identity, control, and human connection that lie beneath the surface. It's like the film is whispering secrets to you, daring you to look closer and think harder, turning every frame into a puzzle piece in its intricate design. Serenity doesn't fit into a sprawling franchise or sequel universe, which actually works in its favor by letting it breathe and tell its story without the weight of previous installments or future tie-ins. Instead, it stands alone, inviting viewers to jump in fresh without needing a crash course in backstory or mythology. This self-contained nature gives it the freedom to focus deeply on its own characters, themes, and narrative puzzles without getting tangled up in franchise expectations or complicated lore. That said, its title and certain thematic echoes inevitably invite comparisons to its spiritual predecessor, the Serenity, the cult TV series Firefly, and its film continuation Serenity, but it boldly charts its own course with a completely different tone, story, and style. It's almost like a cinematic cousin that shares a name but has no interest in retreading old ground. Since it's not chained to a franchise, the film doesn't carry the burden of satisfying a fanbase waiting for particular callbacks or character arcs, which means it can be unpredictable and unafraid to take narrative risks. This independence lets it explore complex, often murky psychological territory without having to keep things neat for a sequel or spin-off. It's a refreshing break from the often formulaic nature of franchise filmmaking, giving Serenity a unique position in the cinematic landscape as a standalone thriller that plays by its own rules. If we look at it from a historical or genre context, Serenity slots nicely into the long tradition of psychological thrillers that explore identity, memory, and perception. Think classics like Memento or Vertigo, but it also updates and reinvents some of those familiar ideas for a contemporary audience. It's steeped in the modern sensibility of questioning reality and the reliability of what we see and remember, something that resonates strongly in today's world of information overload and fragmented narratives. Its portrayal of setting and atmosphere doesn't aim for period accuracy because it isn't a historical film in the traditional sense, but it nails a sense of place that feels authentic and immersive. The small-town coastal vibe isn't just a backdrop, it's integral to the story's mood and characters, providing both a sense of isolation and a tightly knit community where secrets have weight. The locations, the costumes, and the props all work together to create a believable world that feels lived in and real, even as the story unfolds in a way that sometimes blurs reality and fantasy. In this way, the film functions like a psychological time capsule of sorts, capturing not just a place but an emotional landscape shaped by personal histories, trauma, and the search for meaning. It doesn't rely on flashy period details or historical events to ground itself but instead uses atmosphere, character, and narrative texture to immerse the audience in its world. Overall, Serenity thrives by standing apart from franchise demands and historical expectations. It's a self-contained, richly layered story that invites viewers to dive deep without worrying about missing previous chapters or factual accuracy. This freedom gives it a confident, focused voice that makes the film feel both timeless and uniquely tailored to its own mysterious, twisting path. When it comes to budget, Serenity sits in an interesting spot. It's not a blockbuster with a massive multi-hundred-million-dollar price tag, but it's certainly not a shoestring indie either. The film's production quality punches way above what you might expect from its moderate budget, proving that clever filmmaking, strong performances, and a smart use of resources can create a polished, atmospheric experience without blowing the roof off the studio. The attention to detail in the set design, the haunting cinematography, and the overall moodiness all come together seamlessly, making it feel like a high-end production without the splashy cost. The budget seems to have been allocated thoughtfully, focusing on crafting the right tone and immersive world rather than relying on expensive special effects or star-studded extravagance. The film leans heavily on mood, tension, and psychological depth, which means it doesn't need flashy explosions or CGI to keep audiences hooked. This kind of storytelling shows how a well-managed budget, combined with artistic vision, can deliver a film that feels rich and layered rather than cheap or underwhelming. Financially, Serenity had a mixed run at the box office. It didn't set records or dominate headlines like some of the summer tentpoles, but it found its niche audience and earned respect for its uniqueness. Sometimes films like this face challenges because they don't fit the typical commercial mold or appeal to the broadest crowd right out of the gate. Marketing for Serenity was subtle rather than bombastic, more about teasing the mystery and psychological intrigue than offering up conventional thrills or big star power. This approach helped attract viewers who appreciate thoughtful cinema but may have limited mass-market exposure. Audience reception played a big role in how the film performed financially. It developed a bit of a cult following among thriller enthusiasts and cinephiles who appreciated its atmospheric style and layered storytelling. Word-of-mouth buzz helped it gain traction beyond the initial release, and streaming platforms gave it a second life by reaching viewers who prefer discovering hidden gems from the comfort of their homes. This gradual growth in audience appreciation underscores how some films don't have to be immediate box office smash hits to become valuable and memorable over time. Interestingly, the modest box office returns don't tell the full story of Serenity's impact. The film's artistic ambition and quality have allowed it to carve out a respected place in the thriller genre, often praised for its smart use of resources and effective storytelling rather than blockbuster spectacle. It's a reminder that success isn't always measured by numbers alone. Sometimes, a movie's true victory lies in how it connects with its audience and stands the test of time. In sum, Serenity is a case study in making the most out of a moderate budget, using creative choices to maximize production quality and audience engagement. Its box office journey might not have been a runaway hit, but but the film's craftsmanship and distinct voice have ensured it remains a noteworthy entry that proves you don't need a mega budget to deliver a captivating cinematic experience. If you're wondering where you can dive into the mysterious and twisting world of Serenity, the good news is that it's become pretty accessible since its initial theatrical run. While catching it on the big screen might require a bit of luck these days, maybe a special screening or film festival revival, most viewers will find their best bet in the digital and streaming realms. This film was made to be savored in a setting where you can really soak up its atmospheric tension and subtle details without distractions. So home viewing is actually a blessing in disguise. Streaming platforms have embraced Serenity, so if you have subscriptions to popular services like Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, or others, there's a good chance it's hanging out there waiting for you. It's the kind of film that benefits from the pause button too. If you want to rewind a cryptic line, study a shadowy frame, or just take a breather after a particularly intense scene, streaming lets you do that at your own pace. Plus, the home setup means you can cue up the perfect mood lighting, grab your favorite snacks, and really dive into the film's haunting ambience without feeling rushed. If you're not subscribed to a streaming service that carries it, digital rental or purchase options are widely available. Platforms like iTunes, Google Play, YouTube Movies, and Vudu typically offer Serenity for rent or buy. Renting is a great option if you want to dip your toes in without commitment, but buying it ensures you can revisit the film anytime you want, which is tempting given how many layers there are to unpack in the story. For the fullest impact, watching Serenity in a quiet, dark room with good speakers or headphones is ideal. The film's sound design and score are integral to its mood, and catching the subtle shifts in audio can heighten the experience dramatically. Plus, the cinematography deserves attention. Watching it on a decent screen where you can appreciate the shadows, reflections, and framing will pull you deeper into the story's mysterious world. If you're a fan of physical media, checking out Blu-ray or DVD versions can be rewarding too. Special editions sometimes include bonus features like behind-the-scenes footage, director commentary, or deleted scenes that add even more depth and context to the film. These extras can turn a single viewing into a full-on Serenity immersion session, perfect for cinephiles who love exploring the making of a movie. Ultimately, whether you stream, rent, buy, or find a special screening, Serenity is a film that invites you to slow down and absorb every twist and turn. It's not a flick you want to breeze through. It demands your attention and rewards it with a rich, atmospheric journey. So find your cozy spot, dim the lights, and prepare to get pulled into a world that lingers long after the credits roll.